Okay, welcome to the first episode of Just Us, the podcast about mental health in the justice system and how purpose and creative expression can be used to make meaning and cope. Today, I have a very special friend with me, Mr. Jeffstately. He is a very multifaceted individual. He is extremely interesting, so I think that you guys are going to enjoy his story today. Jeff, tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm a very interesting, multifaceted person that's going to tell my story today.
Wow, amazing. That was good. You just made me feel better about what I said. Yeah. All right, are you ready to get into it?
I'm ready.
All right, it's just us. Let's go.
Let's go.
So I want to bring it all the way back, okay? You're from Brockton, Mass.
Yep.
Okay. So I want you to kind of tell us a little bit about what Brockton means to you.
Brockton's really just like a melting pot of cultures and flavors from different parts of the world congregated on a coastline in Massachusetts. And we have some like pretty bad winters. Yeah.
Okay. That's it?
Yeah.
All right. Tell me about your upbringing and your childhood. So what was life like for young Jeff?
I have like this one memory of like me and my dad and my little brother riding the bike down the street, like next to the Angelo school. And it just reminded me of like a Disney movie, like when you're watching it Saturday morning. And that was like probably like 1 year of my childhood. And then you start to see the stuff that happens as you get older and you get influenced by friends and you do some crazy stuff. You know, I grew up with like a lot of alcoholics, so I always seen that in the house. And I had a wide range of young kids at different ages. So like I was always like a teenager, even though I might have been 7, because I had like my older OGs that were like 14, then the people who were 18, you know, and we got to know everything and do certain things. And, you know, I was a chubby kid. So I hung out with a lot of women, like my cousins and stuff, because I couldn't hop fences. Or like I remember one time I hopped the fence and like my belt loop caught on the fence and it left me there to laugh. It was like a public execution. Yeah.
Damn.
You know.
Okay. It sounds like you kind of maybe learned a lot from a young age.
Yeah, I would say so. I watched Seinfeld like when I was like a kid.
Did you learn more from Seinfeld than you did from real life?
I learned a lot about dating. Like I never used to know. I always wondered why people say like, "Oh, come up for a cup of coffee." And you're watching Seinfeld and Jerry's like a bachelor, and like I feel like that molded me and gave me like a certain outlook and taste at a very young age. Mm-hmm. Whereas kids might have been watching like Power Rangers. I was watching that too, but like I remember my weekly TV schedule, and it'll be like I get home, okay, Reba comes on, according to Jim. Then you're watching like My Wife and Kids and like, you know, and then Seinfeld's on. You got to swap between channels. Okay, Simpsons is on. I watched all these. Now let me get Simpsons. So it's like, yeah, like I watched a wide array of things on basic cable because I was poor. I mean, I feel like it was like I had like you're still young, so everything looks fun, and you might go back and be like, it sucks. Like But Ugly Martians. Like I had this cassette, this VHS, and I watched it and I loved it. And then I watched like a retrospective on it, and it talked about how this was a horrible show. And I'm like, dude, I liked it when I was a kid.
Right.
So.
It's actually kind of funny because I feel like as we get older and then we watch things that we watched as a kid,
Yeah,
and how different they seem. And we're like, wow, I didn't even realize that like it was saying what it was saying or it was doing what it was doing. But when you said the thing about Disney that year, and then you said like as you grew up, things kind of seemed different. What do you mean? Like, what is that? What do you mean by that?
like I had parents that sheltered a lot of the problems in the family because we're a kid. So like my sister and my older brother, God rest his soul, came and they were like the sacrificial pieces. One went on to make a lot in her life, and then the other one unfortunately met his demise. So they would kind of shelter me and my little brother from like some of the things. So we kind of grew up like spoiled, but in the confines of poverty. So whereas my sister might have holes in her shoes, I was wearing Bobos or like Fubus or like bottom barrel shacks and stuff like that. And then you start to go to school and, you know, some kids are talking about sex when you're in elementary school, and then you're going back home and your older friends are doing certain things or saying certain things. And then, you know, you go from everything being like the Disney show to like now, okay, this is kind of really what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to see the arguments and, you know, the beefs on the street and freaking, you start hearing about people dying and
Mm-hmm.
you can't go over here and like things like that. But, you know, when you're very young, like the way I grew up, it's like, okay, so I understand like the potential of being raised in a good way. And then that was short lived.
Do you feel like that was confusing for you? Like being sheltered and then kind of seeing everything that was happening around you and being like, oh, maybe, you know, this bubble, for lack of a better term, like isn't how everything really is.
I wouldn't say it's confusing. It just put me in a position to like hold a lot of pain in, because it's like, okay, you guys are hiding me from this thing. Then you start to understand the things like, okay, my dad was in jail for a certain period of time because he was drunk, or my older brother had to do a couple months for DUIs, and or my cousin getting killed and because he's involved in some gang stuff, and my mom scolding my older brother for being involved in that stuff. And like, you just always hear it because you're in the room,
Mm-hmm.
but we know. And like, these are foreigners trying to like hide things from a kid. They're not the best at it,
Right.
you know? So like, I'm not dumb. I'm watching Seinfeld, so I knew what certain things were. So
Yeah.
I just started to understand. And it's like, it just made me like go with this whole thing. And like, you're outside looking in, even though you're part of the situation, and you're watching this like gradually decline. And it like, I kid you not, it just gets worse as the years go on, like bad.
Even now.
Yeah, like earlier this year, God, I didn't even want to talk about that stuff, but it was very challenging for my family.
Yeah.
And like you're going from that downward hill with your dad. Like my dad, if you know my dad, like this dude never rides a bike. So he's doing this like a man who worked 3 crappy jobs and got a 3-family house and brought all my family over from Cape Verde. And like, I kind of see why he turned to alcohol, because it's like you got the weight of a whole generation on you, and then you got kids to raise, and in this country where you don't really understand much. And then you have me who's like, just go to school and do whatever you do. And like, so I'm a dude who knew all the bad stuff, but I was very sheltered and couldn't go out, or had a curfew, had to be in bed at 8 and certain things. And it prolonged me from the stuff, but like that innate nature that gets built inside you, because you're seeing kids steal and do certain things, and you want to be cool. And then eventually once I went homeless, it's like, okay, I don't have nobody to watch me. So it's like, I'm going to just start doing shit. Excuse my language. I'm going to start doing certain things. So, it creates a problem.
Yeah. You can say shit, by the way.
Okay. I didn't know. Sorry. I be watching Breakfast Club and I get like you cursed? Like, yeah, you could curse. But.
No, it's fine. So it sounds like you learned about the justice system at a fairly young age. Or that you learned that there was something out there. Maybe you didn't realize exactly what it was.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, was it spoken about at all? Like, was it discussed, or was it kind of just like this thing?
So there's like 2 answers to that. I have like what the school was teaching me, where it's like, we respect our police officers and emergency services, and you got to always follow the law, and you got to pledge your allegiance to the flag, and you got to stay home because 9/11 happened and we got to be patriotic now. And then you go home and it's like, we don't call the police because the police beat your brother or do certain things, and we don't like white people because of how they treat you. And you start seeing those things, and then it's like you get this weird sense of like the justice system, because for a long time I grew up kind of naive and thinking that like what is law is actually like the rules of life and how you should do things. And then you get older and you start to understand who can argue their better case and help their defendant get away with certain things. And then you start to see like, oh, okay. And you're like, what is justice? But as a kid, it's like, you just get like that surface level idea of it. And as you go on through your grade school years, you start to understand more figuratively and literally. And then you start to see things and you're like, okay. Like I'm hearing a side of like the people who I grew up with because they were involved in the streets, and they're talking about like, oh, you gotta get a coif, and like I didn't even know what a coif was until like recently. But it's like I'm hearing that whole time, and then you have people on probation. You're seeing the little inklet, and I'm thinking it's cool because I'm like, oh, these dudes is like, But then you realize it's like, oh, they're on house arrest or they have to be monitored, and then you're like, I don't think they're bad people because they're so good to you, but. Then it's like, are they doing, and you just go throughout your childhood, like in this weird space and like not really understanding, because we looked at like justice in America, like kind of like, as my parents say, contra nos, or like against us. So that makes it like just weird for me.
Yeah, I think, well, speaking to the last thing that you said, that's, I feel like, so pertinent, like being against you or being against us. That feeling alone, like completely, I feel like just shapes the way that you move and your perception of the world. And I think a lot of people do feel that way, especially when it comes to the justice system. But two things that I was thinking about when you were speaking is, number one, how I feel like experience teaches us so much more than what we learn in the classroom. And for, you know, in like every topic or category of life. And I think that that's something that is so important, because when teachers are sitting there and saying like, respect policemen and, you know, like this is what you're supposed to do, or the law is the rule that you have to live by. And then you go home and you see something completely different. Like that's confusing for kids, especially as a kid who's like, well, the teachers are telling me this thing and I'm seeing this and my parents are telling me another. Like that's extremely confusing. I guess when you think of the word justice, like what do you think of?
First, Justice League just comes to my mind, but like when I think of justice, I just think it's like this made up, like, so like depending on the society you're in, like this made up thing that's like, that like isn't fair, because like in the eyes of the law, justice could be served in a multitude of ways, because there's certain punishments for each crime. And then it's like, okay, do we have proof, or we find out that the case was tampered with, now we got to throw the whole thing away. Was justice ever really served? But then you think of justice, it's like the fairy tale description of it, where Robin Hood, even though he's stealing from the wealthy to give back to the poor, he's still doing something wrong, but we look at it like it's right because he was giving to people who were in like in a lesser situation, and also going against people kind of bullying these, you know, quote unquote lesser people. So, you know, I have more of a view of that, because, you know, it's like the thing we say in soccer where it's like the ball never lies. You know, like life has a way of carrying out justice. Some people call it karma, you know, do good deeds or whatever. But, you know, I'm like so far removed from like the idea of justice in the eyes of law, or like justice in the sense of like how it should be carried out in this country. Whereas like morally, I think of justice like who's right.
Yeah. I think that also sorry, but I just remembered something that the Robin Hood story just reminded me of. But you said something earlier about seeing kids with like ankle bracelets on and different things like that, and thinking like, oh, like something about them being bad people, but like, you know them and you think they're cool or whatever. I think that is so important for people to realize, is that not everybody who is somehow justice like system involved, or, you know, who's incarcerated, they're not all bad people. And the Robin Hood example is like, I think, a perfect example of that, right? Like some people are literally just doing what they have to do to survive, or they get caught up in a bad situation or whatever it is. And I think that that's so important for people to remember, because our society, I think as a whole, or the majority, doesn't see it that way. They immediately think of people who are like involved in the justice system or who are incarcerated as bad people. And I feel like it sounds like you kind of know that, and that's fairly close to your heart, because you know some people that are involved or have been involved. Do you brought up the incident of your brother with the police? Is that something that you feel comfortable talking about, or?
Yeah, that's cool.
Can you tell us a little bit about what happened there?
I would say I was roughly like 10 years old, and like my brother used to come home drunk sometimes, and my mom just wouldn't want him in the house because he'd being too loud or just trying to drink all the time and stuff. So she tried to kick him out, and in this situation, she called the police to come and just help him leave. And then that just escalated when the police just saw him, and like I'm trying to control my mom and make sure she's good, and I'm like at this house that we just recently got, so it's like I'm watching the evolution of my family. We're at this nice 1-family house. We came from a 3-family. And then like I'm sliding the door and I'm seeing my mom there with the phone in her hand. The cops just grabbing my brother, throw him on the floor. they George Floyd him. Like, they stepped on his neck. He broke his neck, broke his knee. He was out for like 6 months, was in the hospital, folded. And it was like, wow. And I remember after that, my mom never called the police again. Never. Like, she doesn't want that. And she like didn't want her son to go through that. And it's like, okay, he was drunk, but like, does it give grounds to...
Right.
And like, in the conversations I had with my brother, because we never really spoke about that until like a few years ago, but he just was like, man, I don't even want to talk about it. Like, he's over that. But he would tell me like, yo, the police would be out for him, like whatever he did. And it's like, when you look up his criminal record, it's just DUIs. Like, and then he went without a license for a while, so he wasn't causing a problem, but they were just, I don't know, they just didn't like him. Or could be definitely a case of police injustice, but like nothing came about it because these Brockton cops, and like some of them were prolific for like doing things like that at that time, even now.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, he had to deal with that and carry that pain. And I remember when the George Floyd situation happened, like it just came to my mind. So I guess it became a repressed memory.
Yeah.
I forgot it for years, never talked about it, never made music about it, nothing. I was like, dang, like that happened to him. And I just remembered it was like 3 officers on him, like literally on each part. And then he was like, he wasn't resisting, but I remember he had cuffs on at one point, and like he couldn't even move, so they had to carry him in. They threw him in the car weird. So like he was complaining like, yo, can you all like help me? And I remember hearing him cry, like he was like you're in cuffs with a broken leg, a folded neck.
Yep.
And your arms are like tied behind you, and you need medical attention, but they're gonna arrest you and take you to jail.
And this is in the comfort of his own home.
We're in the driveway. Like, we have a driveway that's slanted like this. And I remember it was kind of cold, like probably like September or November time frame. And there was no cars in the driveway other than my mom's. And I remember the cops pulled up at the end of the driveway, came up, and he was like on the floor, and like it was just doing too much.
Yeah, that had to have been so difficult to watch also for you.
Yeah. I just like looked at it like, I don't know. I was like in this weird space, like he did something wrong, but then it's like, all right, you guys like forced it. Like,
right.
Or like maybe you could just tell him, yo, you need to leave. Like, just go call someone. Like, no, why would you just throw him or something? It's like, I get it. Maybe my brother's a macho man, and he was like probably mouthing off or something. But like, dude, like I remember like it was his son's birthday, and like he couldn't even play with his son because he was in like crutches. And I kept asking, like, yo, let me see your legs. I thought it was cool. I always wanted to break my leg. So I'd ask him.
You always wanted to use crutches.
Yeah.
No, I think, first of all, thank you for sharing that. But with you saying, you knew like, okay, maybe he did something wrong, but also like, why are you guys forcing it kind of a thing?
Yeah.
I feel like we see that so much, especially now in the media, but it's all of these, because I feel like people are quick to be like, oh, but do you know what that person did? And it's like, is that ever grounds for reacting how?
I don't think nobody should die, you feel me? Like, even the death penalty is crazy, but like, you don't see that often, and it takes a lot to get someone to get executed. Yep. Like Massachusetts, we don't carry that, so it's like, when you see those situations, it's like, bro, like what's going on? And like, this is when you're young, like I growing up from the 90s and like early thousands, before social media like became a thing and documentation grew, we were like whatever happened with the cops just happened with the cops. You're not thinking it's happening in this neighborhood or that neighborhood. And then whatever you learn from world history with Black Americans is what you see. So, hey, we had Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. So that's the thing. There's no racism. Everything's good. Then you go to college and you're like, okay, Toussaint Louverture was the first African based colony that freed themselves from colonialism, and they eradicated the French, and Toussaint spent his years in jail while French fought for their freedom. Now the Haitians fought for their freedom. And then you start to see what happened to the slave trade and all that. And
yeah, we could
crazy stuff.
We could talk about that for literally ever.
Hey.
But no, I agree. I don't think anybody should die. And I'm very much against the death penalty. Maybe that's not popular opinion. However, that is how I feel. And we can maybe fact check this, but I'm like 99% sure that, first of all, the death penalty costs way more than to keep someone incarcerated for a life sentence.
Dang, it costs how much money to murder someone?
Isn't that something?
Like, what is it? Like the chemicals they use? Or?
I think it might be the method. I'm not 100% sure, but
they gotta like look at like medieval Europe and like, come on, we'll stretch the dude alive or something. That's not that much money.
I don't know, but I do know, I'm going to have to look this up, but I'm pretty sure it costs more money, which by the way, that's our money, right? So we are literally paying
to kill people.
I
never thought about that. Wow. I didn't murder no because I'm in Massachusetts. We're liberal.
But also, I think some people who, not everybody, but some people like to think that like, oh, prison's not that bad, or, you know.
I know some people who really think like that.
No, people do. I know some people that think
time
that.
In their life, and I'm like, wow. And then you see those videos like, yo, they got a flash.
Well, people that are in prison and feel that way, that's one thing. But people who have never even walked inside of one, I don't like when they say that, because like you just don't really know. Like I've seen I work in corrections. I've seen people who like don't want to leave, which, you know, that's very sad and unfortunate. They become institutionalized and their life in there is just better than it is outside.
I dealt with that firsthand.
How?
My little brother, like I'm watching him go to jail and come out, and like, so like I remember I had to explain to him like the update in the iPhone because he was gone for like a couple months.
Yep.
And he was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude." And he's like,
"So update in an iPhone. Imagine like
people coming out and be like, what is this?
Of what's a cell phone, like, or what's a smartphone, or what's a debit card, like." All these things, crazy. Yeah. So do you feel like your view of the justice system is different now that you're older than what it was when you were younger?
I think it's way older now that I've been through it myself.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good time to talk about my criminal history.
I mean, that's on you if you want to talk about it.
I'm good, you know, but I could talk about like my dealings with court.
Yeah, because I was going to ask what impacted the change of your view of the justice system. So if you feel like it was that, then.
So like, as I went on throughout my young adolescence and like early 20s, like I'm around all these people who are dealing with things in court, but I'm going to school, I'm playing soccer, I'm doing music. So I'm kind of removed from that until like this one fateful trip to California just changed everything and set me on a path that, even though I stand victorious today, it was like 3 years of just hell and losing friends and no certainty and just kind of just giving up. But I remember when I got my first like letter to go to court. Now I got letters to go to court for like maybe like a speeding ticket or like, you know, little things like that. But this was now 2 felony charges. And I'm like, wow. So I'm so nervous because it's like, you know, when you hear felony charges, you think of a more severe punishment. And then, you know, you don't put into context, like you get like the 3 strikes and then also like, what is your record? Because they look at your history like, oh, this is a kid who went to college places. Oh, this is one little thing. All right, cool. Let it go. But while you're going through the motion, it's different. It's like people can talk about something until they're actually in the situation. And when you're in that situation, like I remember I felt stressed because it's like, okay, if I get a court-appointed lawyer, what if they're just going to settle for some mediocre thing? And then what if I pay, or if I have the money to pay for something a little more expensive to, you know, better my chances? And then once you get to the end and you realize, you know, they dismissed it, they put you on like probation, and, you know, 3 months go by and nothing changes and you're good. And you're like, wow, it wasn't that bad. Mm-hmm. So then I see why people repeatedly go through that. But, you know, and there's people who have like 20 instances and like, they still don't care. Cause it's like, who are you to say what I'm doing is bad? If I'm selling something to someone that wanted it, or if I'm, like, I mean, if you're robbing and like killing people, like, I don't think that's good, but there's certain things that you get tried for. Like I remember I'm sitting there and like, I like this a lot because you get to see how the court works. And like, if you have money, you can buy yourself out of some of these situations. And then also you like, it's like an arena. You have, and mind you, everybody's connected. Like they all know each other. They know what's up. They'll tell you like, oh, this is a good, I'll call the DA right now. And then we'll see what's up. They'll probably dismiss it. And then you're like, okay. Then they call the DA and they're like, oh, no, they're actually trying to go forward with this. So, you know, then you start looking at your defense. And like I had multiple run-ins with court in terms of like criminal things. One, what I just mentioned, and the other 2 involving somebody else in my family. And, you know, it's, sometimes you take it lightly because you look at it like it ain't that big a deal. And then when something's really a bigger deal, it's serious. And like everything you say can like put you in jail. So you got to like be careful and get a lawyer. Yeah. So then you start to realize like, okay, this isn't a game, but at the same time, you could play it like a game because, oh, I can get the best lawyers and get out of here. Oh, you can't really tell if that's me in the video. Oh, the witness didn't show, you know, then you start to realize like, this is really a game. Okay, Jeff. Here's how we're going to do it. Just, you know, you pay whatever you got to pay. And then I got you. Don't worry about it. And you start to see the confidence in some of these lawyers, and then you start to realize like, okay, the justice system is really like, who can tell the better story? Who knows the law? You know, some people sit there and they start bringing up these criminal cases from the past and cross-referencing it with this case to get something thrown out. And then you see the judge being like, oh, this is BS. Why are we doing this? Like, you know, and then the person's like, oh, I'm just trying to delay the case for another time. And then hopefully like the people just don't show up, you know?
Yep.
And it's like, okay, like it's very interesting. You're watching a woman who, I remember, I know a lot of people do insurance jobs with their car, and a woman who finally got caught. And it's like a 40-something, 50-year-old woman scared for her life because she did insurance fraud.
Yep.
You know, then there's another guy who supposedly raped his girlfriend, and she's very young. And now you start looking at everybody like, oh, there's so many different people in here. There was a person who had a dog, and they were like, it's not registered. Like, what?
Yep.
And the judge is like, and the judge has the power to even find the person coming up with the complaint, because he could look at him like, you're really serious? Like, it's a dog. Like, is the dog harming you or anything? You know, so it's like weird stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. And I think it is one of those things that like people don't fully realize until they're in it. And then you're like, whoa, like this is crazy. Yeah. So yeah, that makes complete sense. Okay, so it's definitely shifted a little bit, most likely from personal experience. What about mental health? Was that ever talked about when you were younger, whether it was at home, in school, or somewhere else?
Never. I started to learn some of the cartoons I watched tackled it, like an As Told by Ginger episode, and like an Emmy, because it covered like a depressive topic.
Wow.
But that was the most I probably ever got. Other than that, it's like nobody really talked about like anything sad. Nothing. It was like, oh, why are you crying? It's like, oh, I lost my pencil.
I lost my pencil. I love that. Okay, so then I'm not surprised by that answer. That I think is also a huge societal problem. Yeah. We just don't talk about mental health, especially, you know, when people are young. And I think a part of that is maybe trying to like shelter in a way. But what was your first experience with mental health? Whether it was you or like somebody that you know, or when's the first time I guess that you really learned like, oh, this is a thing? I'm
trying to think. It's funny because I just had like a memory of like, okay, this might have been the first time I like suffered with like a depressive episode. But the main one I really remember was like my junior year going into my senior year, and like the pressures of college like just falling on me. And I didn't play soccer my senior year because I was so depressed. And even though the coach was like, where's Jeff? I didn't show up for the third day of tryouts because my sister, who went to college, went to BC, an immigrant, like now she lives in California, twins, her husband's an entertainment lawyer. She works as a CFO, and you're like, damn, like this is my like thing I have to aspire to, if not be better. But it's at the same time, I'm like, she's away. Yep. So I'm stuck here to figure things out. And then I'm asking my sister, who's been through the process, like, what do I do? And she's like, okay, what do you want? And I wanted to be a chef, a culinary chef. Shout out to Rachel Ray. All those, like I had no cable, so I'm watching Rachel Ray. And I had a crush on her, and she taught me how to cook. And I cooked the first meal ever the day before we went to Six Flags. And it was very salty, but everybody liked it except for my little brother. So that's what I wanted to do. And then you're like, okay, I don't even know how to apply to school. I don't even know if I could write it. Now you start like second guessing yourself, and like you go from me, like people always looked at me like a charismatic, outgoing person, to now like I made no sense of anything. And like this is before even now where we have like an inclination of mental health problems. But that was like I was 16, 17, and like I shut down, and like I stopped hanging out with my best friend. Didn't show up for soccer. Like I remember there was me and this other kid, and like I was gonna get the spot because everybody's vouching for me, and they were like, he didn't show up the third day, I didn't get to go, so I never played my senior year. So then I found a program called My Turn, which helped me like streamline that college applications process and took me to schools, and everything became less scary. Yeah. Like I remember sitting there like you're trying to scream but you can't. And like you never talk to this about your family, so you're just very quiet and you just go about things, and that's it. But I remember like I struggled, like it was bad, like so bad. Oh yeah, there was an earlier time, but I'll stick with that one. I just remembered
Okay. But so you were experiencing it probably without even realizing what was happening. And that, like, for young people has to be so scary and confusing. And like, you're also like, who do I talk to about this? Because I don't even maybe know even like how to put words to what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Also, nobody has really, explained what this is or given me a safe space to talk about what I'm feeling. So I got to keep like pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down. And then sometimes obviously you can just get way worse. Also, I don't know what that program is that you mentioned, but I feel like we need more of those.
Yeah. My turn is just like a program that was, I don't know if they still have it in Brockton High, but I know a few years after I graduated, it was there. But it pretty much just like takes a select group of kids that apply to it. I think there's like a certain criteria you need. And then they help you apply for scholarships, take you to college tours.
That's amazing.
Help you like organize that portfolio you need for
Yeah.
this college experience, these college admittance and application processes. And they made it just so easy because it's like when you think about it, it's like your first 2 years of high school is fun because it's like, okay, I just got to deal with school and I'm growing up and all that stuff. Then you get to the second half and you know, it's like school is second nature to you. And now it's like, okay, we're all thinking of like, what are we going to do?
Yep.
You know, you start seeing people who are early parents and other people who are now dealing with the legal system and stuff like that. So everybody's carving out their lane. And then it's like, what do you want to do? Yep. And it's like, I spent a majority of my life never speaking up or doing certain things for myself because I always lived with this insecurity inside of me. So then it's like, it's not healthy. And then you're just on a collision course of like destruction. And you don't know how to figure that out.
Right. Was the insecurity why you think that you were feeling like depressed?
No.
Were those related?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's related. Like, cause like being a fat kid, like I became funny because I'm fat. Like I'm watching these, like Nicole Maskinis, right? We all know her. She's married and has her kids now, but we all had a crush on her when we was in kindergarten. And I used to never think I had a chance because, you know, there's Louis Pava and you have like Gion and like all these kids with like who are more in shape or like just, in my opinion, like better looking than me at that time. Mm-hmm. And then you just go and it's like, okay, like you don't want to take off your shirt. So now you look even weird in the pool with a shirt. Like, and you know, and then you start doing these little things to hide it. But it's like, and then kids are bullies at this time. Like, I don't know about today, but like kids are bullies.
Big.
I remember one time I fell and I bounced twice.
Stop.
And they rashed me for it. They were saying that they're like, that's why you bounced twice. And I'm like, damn, but I'll get my lick back, you know what I'm saying? But still, like, you know, and you try to act tough and then you cry and it's like these kids poke fun at you. Because I grew up with some tough kids. Like, I remember one time my brother's fighting someone that was having like an evenly fought fight. They call me while I'm gaming on my GameCube playing Beautiful Joe. They're like, yo, you got to come beat up this dude. And imagine, this is a neighborhood friend. I go there, I just beat him up in like 1 second. And it's like that's what we did as kids. Right. So it's like, you can only imagine like any insecurity you have, like it's just going to grow. Especially like when you're looking at yourself lesser, like especially this time, like these cartoons always had that one fat kid and he was the class clown. So I was the class clown because I was that fat kid. So then you get older and insecurities just on the back of your mind. So I remember there was a big shift from 8th grade to 9th grade. And there's this one girl I'm not going to name, but I have so much like disdain for her because she used to deny me or like poke fun at me in middle school. And now in 9th grade, I got taller. I'm like 6 feet, 6'1", big curly hair, handsome. And now they're like, oh, Jeff. Oh, this, you know what I'm saying?
They're like, so, oh, now you won't.
And I remember that. I always held that with me because it's like, yo, like you don't need to treat people like that. That's why I have like a level of respect for like certain people who take pride in themselves regardless of like how they look or what they are. So I'm always around any type of person because I respect that manner and I don't want them to ever feel how I would feel, you know?
Yeah. So how do you feel like your mental health is now?
At the moment, it's very strong. But like, you know, I carry a lot of like pain inside of me and like I express it in different ways. But like, I feel like I have a good control because it's like, if you really think about it, like you can have a great life.
Yes, you can.
You can have a lot of adversity, but like, I kid you not, you go on YouTube and find a solution. Like there's a guy, I watched his YouTube channel and like he started off, he just moved away from his city and went to Florida. with no plan. And then he was applying for weeks. So we're watching his YouTube video. Weeks he's trying to get a job. Then he finally gets the job. And then he gets his like 100 subs. And it's like you're watching this man go from nothing. And now he would do printing clothes and like different things. And now he has like a good following and he sustains a YouTube career. And it's like, yo, like you could really do anything. Like, especially in this day and age, you know, granted some hiccups or whatever, but it's like, okay, I can control my mind. Like I used to sit there there was points in times where I was like, you might see me on social media and I just drop off going through something. I lose mad weight.
Yep.
Go from like 250 to like 200. And then I freaking sit there and I'm not eating because, I have to have this certain diet because if these foods are causing depression, because I watched all these videos that said this and you have these people saying this and then, you know, and then there's that insecurity of me not knowing what I should be doing with myself and thinking I have to do what all these people are doing sets in and then confuses you. So then I'll have a conversation with my cousin who wants to trade Pokemon cards and he wants to bring me in because I have that charismatic, like outgoing personality and we can make money together. But then I'm like, I'm only doing this because you want to do that. I don't want to do that, but I'm only doing that because of that insecurity. So then now it's like I control my mind in a certain sense. But we'll see, because like earlier this year, it was very tough for me, like facing what I was facing. So
it's up and down.
Yeah.
It fluctuates.
You know, but that's the beauty of life.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that that's a very normal experience and something I think that we need to continue to normalize, because 1 month we might be, or 1 day, 1 minute we might be up here and then the next we're down here. So speaking of doing that because, you know, that's what he wants to do, what do you want to do? Like right now, what do you feel like your main motivation and drive is?
I feel like even though this is a forever changing thing, like I got like a better understanding of what I want to make myself do. It might not be my calling, but how I can implement myself in the betterment of society, because that's what I want to do. And I just literally want to create in any medium that I can do. I don't care what it is, I'll do it. If I'm baking, like I'll do it. You know what I'm saying? But just to help people understand that like they can do stuff that they enjoy without sacrificing like a bit of themselves or like going above and beyond. And it really is simple. So like I want to make it like a safe space for just people to be themselves in anything they do. You know, sometimes like I remember this was like a poetic thing for me, like Crew started taking himself as an artist serious. So
can you tell the people who don't know who Crew is?
All right. So Crew is this light-skinned kid who blew up on YouTube because he marketed himself as a model, and they had this ad for this modeling agency. So it looked like they were hiring models to just model for a modeling agency. And that's what he did, and he got his start that way. And he's just a great producer and guy in this life, and he's somebody I consider a brother. But he what was I gonna say?
I know, sorry, I might have just...
No, I remember now.
Okay.
I'm very good at bringing that back. Shout out to not drinking liquor.
Amazing.
Yeah, so there was this one time where he had this performance, and like he's in a very foreign spot, and like you gotta perform a song, and Crew's not really the best performing if he's not that confident. So I remember him, like I could see it, he's losing his confidence. Then I put my arm around him and I start rapping the words with him, and like it just sprung to life. So it's like where was I going with that analogy?
I don't know, but something that you said during that story about like making people feel comfortable, that you really truly do. I feel like that is just like you. And if I could describe it in one way, I think that you really do make people feel comfortable to just like be who they are, because you are so unapologetically you. Like always.
It took me a long time to get this way though.
Whether you're talking to me, whether you're talking to my mom, whether you're talking to like a stranger, someone you know, or in any setting, you know what I mean? And I love that about you, and I feel like everyone loves that about you. And I think that rubs off on people, which is great.
That's why I liked that last weekend, because it was like, normally, like I remember growing up, you have this stigma where it's like, say I like a heavy set woman, right? I think she's pretty. You know, I think everybody could be pretty, right? But say I like that heavy set woman. So that's my personal opinion, right? Right. But you go and talk to your boys, it's like, yo, I was hollering at such and such. And they're like, bro, yo, she's a hoe. She's this and that. She's fat. What the fuck are you doing? You're like, damn, that just kind of discourages you. So it's like, now it's like, I love when I see my friends do whatever they want to do and I don't say nothing, because that's their thing.
Right.
And some people like to make it uncomfortable. Like, just because I like Tame Impala and you don't doesn't mean I shouldn't listen to it.
Yep.
But people will try to push that narrative where it's like, you need to do this, this, and that. And like, to me, that's like sheep mentality. Like, nah, dog, like we gonna stand from the pack. And it's like, it's not, it's weird because it's like, we all should be standing this way. But, you know, we just live in this weird world where things are just like this. And we're trying to break those norms. We still got a long way to go.
Yep.
But that's just what it is.
No, it's true. I think it's because everybody, the media and whatever else feeds us, you know, who you're supposed to love and what you're supposed to look like and, you know, the path you're supposed to take and all this stuff. Yeah. And it's like, why doesn't everybody just do what they want to do? And everybody just accept
unless
it.
Everybody wants to kill someone or something.
Right.
Do what you want to do.
Within right, you know what I mean? But okay, let's talk about the name Jeff Stately.
Okay.
Tell us about that. How did that come about?
So years ago, it was like 2009. I used to be J-Dog.
J-Dog? I don't even know that. Okay.
J-Dog, right? You know how K-Dot, you know, J-Dog? That's totally unrelated. But yeah, so I used to just rap, freestyle. And it kind of started with like, you know, sometimes in the locker rooms with friends walking home from school. That's why I love when people freestyle. Because it's like, I feel like it's just a natural thing. And like we all, for some reason, we all like go to gay raps for some reason, but it's still fun. So like I built a lot of like my skill like that. And then the type of person is I took a love to like English. It's funny because I was like normally they wouldn't allow somebody to take IB English unless they're enrolled in other IB courses. Yeah. But they were going to bend that rule for me. But then like they saw my other scores and they were like, we don't know. And they had, and you had really to get admitted into it. So they gave it to somebody else. But I remember like, you know, this is how much I like the language. And I used to like go on Rhyme Zone and look up rhyming words. So like all the shuns, productions, seduction, like I would just know all of them because I would look at them and study them. So like that was J-Dog. And then like there came a point where it was like me and my friend Denzel, Tello, love him. He would record with me and rap and make beats and stuff like that. So a lot of my foundation came from that. And then he came up with the idea. He was like, yo, like you need to like come up with a better name. Like we're getting a little older. J-Dog's kind of whack. So we went through like a rap name emulator where it just like it just gives you names.
Oh wow!
It was like weird names, like you know how Childish. I think Childish Gambino was a weird name. So it would be like names like that, like Black Cat or like just dumb stuff. And
Black Cat.
And then like
amazing.
We would look. There's YouTube. I love YouTube, but there was a YouTube video. It was like how to come up with rap names, and like one of it was like just flip to a page in the dictionary.
Wow.
So the first page I flipped to, it was like stately, and we're reading, and it was like the meaning of stately. It's an actual word. It means you have like a certain presence or manner when you walk into a room. So Jeff Stately, you feel me?
Whoa.
And people think it's my last name too.
Okay, I didn't know that, and I am so happy that I know that now.
I didn't tell a lot of people, but I talk about it now.
That's amazing. Yeah. And also that, like, for you to actually flip to that page, and that's what it was, that is also like so you. So that's crazy. Oh my God, I love that. Okay, that's dope. So when did you first get into music? Like how old were you?
Probably like 9 or 10. I remember it was me and my brother were like beefing over some basketball game. Like Denzel was there too. He's like a neighborhood friend. And we were beefing over this basketball game because I would just like beat him in it. And me and my brother had like that sibling rivalry. Like it'll be to the point where we'll get chips and like he would not eat his and let me eat mine first, even though because I was like a fat ass. Then as soon as I finish mine, cracks open the bag and deliciously like eats it in front. He's like,
Because you wish that you had more.
No, mind you, my dad's fair and he's gonna get us the same shit. Like he might get blue Doritos and I might get red.
Oh, okay.
He's gonna wait because he don't care. I'm a chubby kid, so I want to eat my stuff right as soon as I get it. So as soon as I finish, mind you, I already had mine, but I felt like he would disrespect me by eating his in a certain way.
Okay.
And he'll do it to piss me off.
Right.
Yeah. And so, what was I gonna say? Oh, so there was this. We were beefing or whatever, and then he's trying to like throw a rock at me, and because he can't get me, and I'm laughing at him. So then I had recorded a song of just straight swears and like wanting to kill my parents and saying fuck them and all this shit.
Wow.
It was like a joke. It was like fuck you. Like how can I fit so many swears in one song?
Yeah.
And I had like this little headset mic that I would steal from school. And so I recorded that, and my brother knew about it. So then he can't beat me physically, so he goes and snitches on me. And my mom comes down, and my mom, I kid you not, was laughing her ass. I tried to delete the song. My brother's going in the trash thing, so I didn't know you could empty the trash. And he's like, see, the song is there. And they play it. And it was so bad, but it was like...
Your mom thought it was funny?
She was laughing because she was like, yo, you really tried to make a song saying... And she beat my ass, though, but... Yeah. So that was like
amazing.
That was like the first foray. But I didn't know it was ever going to be like anything serious until like I had like a group of kids we would walk home from school with, and we would always rap. And there was like this rap scene in high school that like predated the current scene by like multiple generations. And we used to like battle rap and stuff like that. And like we had rap beefs and niggas would be like, oh, he's the top rapper here. And then you had somebody who made like a crazy song. And then, you know, it's like, what? But I remember with Denzel, like he would start to record, and I think the first song I ever recorded, I remember the rap too. I used to have these rhyme books, but I lost it when I went homeless. But freaking, it would be like, I be shining, I be rhyming forever, lying while you try and call me great. Must you debate a real MC? Guess who, me? But the song was called Jeff is a Pumpkin, because we used to name things weirdly. I still do it to this day. I'll be like, okay, I just had a green tea shot. That's the name of the song. Amazing. Until I change it for the actual project.
Jeff is a
then
pumpkin.
It becomes a problem when you're looking for files and you're like, oh, this is saved under Strawberry Lemonade. Okay.
Right. You're like, what is that one again?
Yeah. So, yeah, and I recorded that. And then after that, I remember a song for like my girlfriend at the time, Simonica. It was like Rock With You. And I have these songs.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's good that you...
There's a MySpace out there too. Jeff Stately and Young Black. But Stately spelled statily because it's spelled wrong.
Stately.
Yeah, but it exists.
Amazing.
But I don't think you could play the songs because I guess MySpace dumped a lot of the data, but the pages exist.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. And then I tried to log back in, but I don't remember our password.
Right, yeah.
13, 14 years ago.
So how do you feel like your music overall has just not only your music, but your music and the work that you do has overall like affected your mental health, whether that's in a positive way or in a negative way?
Like, to be completely honest, like it's the most rawest form of me, like the most realist me. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes there's these songs I write and like they become prophetic because like I'll be with this girl and then the song I make is about like, don't turn your back up on me. And then like a few weeks later we have a falling out and it's like, what the heck? I'm listening to this song and I'm like, it speaks to a specific situation.
Yeah.
Before it even happened. And it was just like a weird thing. So like I feel like sometimes I make songs that are like BS. Like I remember one time I went to the studio with Crew and I made this song and like it was a joke, but I was trying to be serious at the same time. And then Crew would like laugh at me. He'd be like, break that glass, boy. Like some weird stuff. But most of the music I make is serious. So like there's certain songs where I'm like talking directly to someone. So it also is like therapy for me because I might not be able to get closure and understanding with people in reality, but like through this music, I get to talk my genuine feelings.
Right. Yeah. Especially when and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe like as you were growing up and as you got more into music, especially coming from a place where, you know, mental health wasn't really talked about, like that becomes an outlet.
Yeah.
So I think that's dope. I want to ask about this. What is it, a female or male?
It's a male.
It's a male.
The story changes slightly, but it's so there's the Maxwell character.
Because I'm going to ask you about Death to Maxwell. I want you to take...
get there. This is still part of the Death to Maxwell lore.
Okay.
But there's so much interconnected things.
So this is Maxwell?
Yeah, this is the real Maxwell.
This is the real Maxwell.
The other one was like the female Maxwell, but she has a real name, but I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to start like some beef.
Okay.
So why are you talking about me on a podcast? Because it already happened to me before.
Oh, no. Okay, yeah, no, don't go there. Take me and, take us on the journey of Death to Maxwell.
So the year is like 2000. The year is like 2007, and my friend Ricky, God rest his soul, was in this class with me and Denzel, and we was in 7th grade. That's why I like our year, because 7th. We was in 7th grade, 2000, But so we had a substitute teacher one time, and Ricky introduced himself as Maxwell. And then the sub wrote the bad kid's names on the board. Maxwell's name's on the board. Teacher comes back the next day. Yada, yada. Who's Maxwell? Then everybody started dying, and then eventually finds out it was Ricky. Ricky still gets in trouble regardless, but that was the name. So as the years went on, me and Denzel, as we met people, whoever's the first to say it would introduce themselves as Maxwell as a game. Then as time went on, like I'm a Gemini, so I don't really necessarily believe in too much what like astrology says, but like I did believe that I had two sides to me. But I think everybody has a good and a bad side. But you know, Maxwell was my devious side, the player, the ain't shit friend, the like person who, you know, leaves a trail of destruction, doesn't care about anybody else. And like that was like the way I can categorize him. So this is that person right here. Then we get to like a relationship that finally like I met my match. You know, I was doing girls dirty for a long time, and like, you know, I'm not going to say I'm proud of it and not proud of it because it helped me understand myself better today. But then I met someone who was like my match, and you know, you thinking like you met the love of your life, but it's really just a cycle of toxicity that brought you nowhere. But then once I got through that, I started to realize like, yo, this isn't really how I should be, what I should be doing, how I should, you know, I lost some friends over this behavior. Yeah. And, you know, I was able to grow and learn from that. And now I'm able to conceptualize it in a styrofoam head with a blue mask.
Amazing.
Yeah. That was deja vu. That's crazy.
You just had deja vu?
Yeah, deja vu moment.
So right now you're currently working on a comic and this concept of an interconnected world. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now.
So Death to Maxwell is my latest offering, which is an EP, 6 songs. There's going to be a deluxe with 3 more songs coming out, hence the blue. You know, but also the this is the end of a trilogy. I had a song on Dover Street, which is probably like one of my critically panned projects because it's like my version of Good Kid, Mad City. But there's a song called Maxwell, which describes a specific night where I cheated on my girl and like what I was doing with my friends. And like it was to the point. But that was like the embodiment of Maxwell on that song. Then you have like my more melodic heartbreak records that come out that touch on the story. So you have World to a World Boy, which is the second offering. Then you have Death to Maxwell. It's like, are we killing that nigga now? He's gone. So I have 2 songs named Maxwell. One is from Dover Street and one is from Death to Maxwell. But they're completely different songs. But they're in the same story. And then this spans into a rock album. Yeah.
So what you just described about Maxwell and the trilogy, is that how you see this interconnected world, or is there something more?
Yeah, so that's just like one story that I can tell throughout this world. But like I have this theme where it's like something is going to lead to the next thing, and I tease these things because I look at it like Easter egg from video games where it's like these little secrets, and sometimes the answer's right in front of you the whole time, but you haven't seen it because it wasn't as obvious. So like you start seeing me with this mask that represents Maxwell, and then it's part of this story, and then I have a certain look and like a certain design, and you know, there's a certain sound, like, you know, this is like a melodic R&B rap-esque project, like trap soul, you know, but then you have the rock project that tells the story of the breakup. This is the aftermath of the breakup. Now you have the story of the breakup. Then you have the videos that show how I killed off Maxwell, starting from where I currently am, moving backwards. And then I have a video coming out that shows how he killed himself. Then I have the whole other project that explains why he wanted to kill himself, and is because of these things. So it's like these things all streamline into one thing, and like it was very hard to do, but like it's very simple too, as long as you know where you want to take it. So like it makes for like a better experience in the end when people sit there and they're like, when you hear a music, you might just take the music, but it's like, wow, like I like this because he did this here, and it's like you get the same story told in a comic, in a 3DS series, in some podcast, you know, in different mediums, but it's all tying into the same thing. So you might not like it in music, but you might like the merch that tells the story. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it hits people in different ways, and people have different ways of enjoying things. So let me see if I could tackle that way.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's really dope. So explain the comic and like the DS diaries, because for anybody who doesn't really know, the comic hasn't been put out yet. So but there have been some diaries.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
So the 3DS diary started as a joke. I document a vlog series on a Nintendo 3DS with horrible quality from sound to video. And I go around just highlighting the eccentric wildlife that I have, and, you know, tied into the description she added of me in the beginning that I referenced myself. I use this as like a way to just showcase my lifestyle and, you know, some of my art and my friends' art. And, you know, I think it's interesting because nobody really does it in the world. So shout out to you guys watching. But yeah, so I do that. And then the comic book is like a teaser in a filler space for my rock project. So there's a whole look that's in the comic book, which is like, the tie, the glasses. I'm trying to go from like a punk rock aesthetic or like Green Day-esque stuff. And the comic book is a teaser of that. So I'm going to drop it like, I don't know, weekly or something. And there are 4 panels. There's not like a whole like book, but it's like these 4 little panels and these stories. And I freaking put it out before the rock project comes out. So then when the rock project comes out, you're going to be like, oh shit, like that was that.
Right.
And then my videos, I'm going to tailor it to the comics. So I have it's going to take a little bit, but I'm going to do it. Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm excited for that. That sounds extremely interesting. So what can we, aside from, that, what can we expect from Jeff Stately in the future?
A lot of drugs, women, sex. Just a good time and just a lot. I've worked, like even though I'm 28 and people are like, you still making music and shit. I don't care how old I am because it took me all those years to form who I am today. And I can say it took me up until like 26 to be fully confident in myself musically. Mm-hmm. Then it took like to 27 to understand, I can do the things outside of the music. And so I'm pretty much doing everything a label does without the money.
Right.
Like I'm very do it yourself. And that's another thing too, is just, you can do anything yourself. People be like, how did you do this? Well, first I go to YouTube, Google, what is this? Okay. How do I do it? Okay. I have to sit. Oh, you play with the exposure. Oh, you chop it. You know what I'm saying? It's all there. Don't ask me. Do it yourself. You just ask me because you're impressed about what I do.
Right.
You think I can give you some sauce I spent fucking 15 years doing this shit. So
you're a DIY guy.
Yeah. Do it yourself. Like even to the point where like, I remember one time I broke Cruz's keyboard and he was so mad at me. And then I was going to buy him a new one. It was like $100-something and I'm not working and, but I had to do it. Then I was like, oh, but you can get a soldering iron and you could buy the little chip and replace it yourself. And I did it and it worked. So it's like, and mind you, I was like, amazed. This was earlier this year. Save me like $100-something.
Right. Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it would be a good idea if you're up to it to give us a little freestyle maybe about mental health, the justice system. I mean, I guess whatever comes to mind.
I do this thing where it's like I rap and I talk, so it's very easy to do rap that way. But sometimes I make it a joke, but I'm going to try to keep it serious.
Okay. I think that, I'm with it, if you're with it.
She's with it.
Do you want some music or do you feel like...
I could do it without music.
All right. So it's on you whenever you're feeling ready.
Sometimes we never feel ready, so we go back to the place where we started at, where we always feeling like things are safe. And you thinking it's safe, but you got a lot of pressure on your mind, thinking the world's going by, but it's slower than time. You don't know where to go. You fighting and gasping for air, trying to make sense of the things that appear. But, sometimes it's a problem and we want to steer clear of the things that we do. But, this path is straight. We could never veer. And sometimes that depression is accompanied by the justice system and the stuff it does to you, but you just never listen. And you want to do the things you want to do, but when it gets tough and times make your sweat glisten, you just go through it because you got a mission to try to get to the other side and inspire a generation to see the things that you couldn't do, but now you're trying to light the fire under another kid. I mean, it could be a bunch of redundant stuff or redundant shit, but the Republicans are trying to push a narrative that the liberals might not understand, and you stuck here trying to be a man that plays both sides, but it's okay. We gonna roll tide like Alabama, but damn, I can't plan to rap anymore, and you see where this goes.
I love it. I love it. Yes.
Yes. That was bars. Drop the bombs.
Bars. Jeff, this was great.
It's fun, dude.
This was.
It's so weird because it's like you suck at soccer. I kid you not. Amy did good today, though.
Amy was there?
Yeah, she hit Fabio with this mean-ass move we was talking
about.
Damn.
You love to tell people I suck at soccer.
It's just because niggas be saying I suck, too. I got to deal it how it comes.
I don't think I've ever said that about you.
You sure? Niggas be showing up and the first thing they say to me is, you suck.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being my first guest.
I appreciate it. Hopefully I'm not the only one. And if I am, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
know?
like imagine it's just this one episode and then that's done. It's like a one-hit wonder.
This is a pilot.
It really
you
is.
Gotta test it with the audience. Hopefully, we do more than 3 views or 4 views because there's 4 of us in here. Oh my God,
that's true. There are some people that you can't see. Hi guys. No, but for real, thank you for sharing your story, being vulnerable, being open. As we talked about, it's obviously not easy to talk about some of the things that we experience or, mental health and all of these things. Yeah. So I appreciate you for that. Oh my God, I can't believe that this just happened.
That's what I said to her one day.
But yeah, that pretty much does it. I learned a lot about Jeff Stately, but I think that one of the things that really, really spoke to me and hopefully speaks to everybody else is that, like I've already said, you are extremely unapologetically Jeff, and I hope that never changes. But I think that learning kind of how you came to be that way, because obviously that wasn't always the case, I think is really inspiring. And I think a lot of other people will be inspired by that to be themselves and kind of do what they want to do, whatever their passion is, to really follow that. Because you explain the struggle. It obviously isn't easy, but and you're still working towards it. So I think that that's amazing. And hopefully everyone will kind of learn something by listening to this as well. Yeah. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
This was so great. And I really appreciated you being vulnerable and, sharing some things that might not be super easy to talk about. I learned about you, and obviously we've been close for some time.
Have we really been close though?
Damn.
I guess we could say that now.
Now we're close.
We're close.
Okay.
Best friends.
Besties for life.
For life.
For life. But
Sorry, babe.
Oh my God. If anything, you will always make me laugh. So I thank you for that.
I appreciate that.
So yeah, thank you. And thank you guys all for listening and watching. Like, comment, subscribe, send emails. Please send me your thoughts, questions, stories, whatever it is. The email is going to be in the description below. Everything will be anonymous, so I will never share anything on here and give any identifiers, but I would love to hear from you guys. And then you can also follow Just Us on everything. All of that will also be in the description below. So thank you.
DJ Envy, Charlemagne the God, and Angela Yee.